blocking me!
Anything will be used against you, that you say.
Welcome to In Frame Out's Year in Film, where we take stock of 12 months of spectacular cinema and unfortunate rubbish. For all that's pure and true in this world of ours, the good always seems to get balanced out by a big old pile of trash-flavoured trash. I've no doubt missed some real clunkers at the cinema this year, and all I can say to that is, thank God I sidestepped at least a couple of the duds at this year's box office. So gather round and help us tear off this proverbial band-aid with entries 10 through 6 of our worst films of 2019.
I told you to stay away.
That's never gonna happen.
Please, stop.
Of the 12 or so films set in the X-Men universe to find their ways to the big screen, ranging from superb character-rich wonders to immeasurably bad slaps to the face of fandom, Dark Phoenix breaks new ground as the most singularly boring of the bunch. If you can see past the toothpicks, you'll need to hold your eyes open. All you're going to glimpse is a second bungled attempt at the Phoenix Saga by the same person who shat the bed with it last time round. Dark Phoenix has so obviously been hacked apart, chewed up, and regurgitated by studio-mandated reshoots that it lacks any identity whatsoever, which is a real problem for a series so tethered to the very notion of refusing to compromise who you are. Sophie Turner's American accent frequently derails and winds up closer to numb-tongued Australian, which only serves to add a thin peculiarity to the nothingness of the performance. There are more continuity errors than you can shake an adamantium claw at. Why have the cast not aged whatsoever between 1962 and 1992, but canonically speaking, in 8 short years they're supposed to look like this?
What?
There's not much to say beyond how completely pointless this entire film feels. After the winning course corrections of Logan and Deadpool, Dark Phoenix is asleep at the wheel and plunging over the cliff of absolute irrelevance.
Come on, Alex, dance a little bit. You know how to dance?
You've always wanted to learn how to play guitar and
Keep playing, I'm
dancing.
dancing. Keep playing, I'm dancing.
Imitation is a form of insincere flagellation in this unpalatable blend of overt and irritating references, intellectual property theft, and lead-footed retreads of everything with even the faintest hint of 80s adventure about it. I genuinely wouldn't be surprised if Rim of the World was written on tracing paper, with the working title, Stranger It Goonies, hastily scribbled out at the last minute. What we have here is algorithmic filmmaking at its most bleakly cynical and glaringly obvious. Like Netflix became self-aware and decided to murder us all with a thermonuclear blast of misremembered pop culture. Directed without so much as a hint of passion by McG, who, 8 movies into his career, is pretty much just Brett Ratner absent the reprehensible scumbaggery, coming off somewhere between an embarrassing SoundCloud mashup and a single-use plastic stuck in the mouth of a panicking duck, Rim of the World calls constant, unavoidable attention to the fact you'd be better off watching just about anything else.
Jeez, you look like hell. Can I get you anything? Maybe something herbal? What do you have exactly?
Pneumonia.
What a trooper.
2019 in many ways has seen us reach the glorious summit of the Keanu Reeves Renaissance. Winning cameos, knife-throwing coolness, breathtaking strides into other media, and charming as all get-out interviews, it's been a killer year to love all things Keanu, which makes it no joyful task to mix the sweetness of everybody's favourite chill-out artist with the scathing negativity required to correctly discuss this utter nonsense. Replicas is egg whisk to the frontal lobe levels of rubbish, rambling technobabble. I can only assume the screenplay for this daunting waste of time was clawed into a coffee table after a 4-day coke binge, because what follows is a hair-pulling exercise in F-grade writing. Now, I don't typically get bogged down in plot holes in sci-fi tosh like this, however, when said logical gaps are bigger than the narrative that surrounds them, even Ted Theodore Logan couldn't escape the black hole that's left in their wake. I'm always in Keanu's corner, even at his lowest, and let's be honest, there are a lot more misses than hits in this filmography, which makes this cack-handed turd robot even more egregious. It's the fumble that kept our man from finishing out the year with a perfect game, and that's a sin almost as heinous as this terrible film itself.
If you don't arrest us, I'll report you.
Lucas!
Leave me the fuck alone! I mean, sorry to fucking swear at kids, but
fuck? No, I'm gonna arrest you for fucking ruining my day. All right? I'll take them. Let me go home!
When writing about comedy that doesn't work, it's often hard to quantify in a meaningful way beyond simply stating it wasn't very funny. Good Boys is an exact blueprint of how to screw up this brand of flatulent, growing up, boys will be boys caper. For a start, there's something inherently uncomfortable about a film aimed at adults that shows the sexualization of children by other children that never adds up to anything meaningful or the very least knowing in its own inherent grossness. On top of that, there's so little here to work with that the very act of making this about prepubescent kids seems like a stunt rather than an integral part of the narrative. There's nothing beyond the three buddies get into some jams then get into an argument at the end of the second act, thereby forcing them to take stock of their friendship, that you haven't seen in just about every ensemble comedy since the dawn of time. I'm really not a hard man to please when it comes to this kind of dumb, gutter-mouthed misadventure. Give me Freddy Got Fingered, Eurotrip, Caddyshack, or even Beerfest, and I'll set my brain to stupid and happily enjoy all the idiocy. Good Boys is a live-action remake of the worst South Park episode you could imagine, stretched out and stripped of anything resembling a joke.
Hey.
Desperately dour when it should be fun, and underpants on your head silly when it calls for serious conviction, Glass is an unstoppable force of embarrassing screenwriting, slamming into the immovable object of M. Night Shyamalan's self-importance. Multiple characters drop any pretense of being anything other than a sounding board for M. Night's brand of lame-brained metatextual commentary, and the thing is, it can hardly be considered meta when it's so on the nose it risks punching through your head. Cutting away from a showdown to have a character say, in the comics I think they call this the showdown, isn't clever, it's unbelievably irritating. Having two villains teaming up by saying, this is the scene in the comic where the villains team up, isn't cute. It's a hammer that kills the part of my brain that used to feel excited. The only thing this actually has in common with a good comic book is just how paper thin it all feels. A wealth of media exists as proof you can pick apart the psychology behind heroism and villainy in a superhuman world, keep things small without shying away from spectacle, and reference the restrictions of a format without binding yourself to them. The best Glass can muster is, I shit you not, slotting in actual deleted scenes from Unbreakable and just saying, meh, that'll shave a couple $100,000 off the budget, I guess. If Unbreakable is an excellent superhero origin story, and Split was a clumsy showcase for James McAvoy's acting, this is the farting corpse of a trilogy that died in vain. One written, directed, and delivered with all the verve and kinetic energy of snails having sex on a plate of salt. So that was entries 10 through 6 of our worst films of the year. Make sure to check out the channel for the rest of our end of the year lists, and tune in next week for entries 5 through 1 of the best films of 2019. Special shout out to our Patreon producers Nicholas Lair Revere, Jennifer C, and Claire MD, and a garbage-covered cuddle for all the patrons who help us out. What did you make of these films? Do you think I'm going too hard on them, or did you also think they really suck? Let us know in the comments, be respectful, they're just films, there's no reason to get mad. Make sure you're subscribed, hit the weird like thingy, and share this with a friend if they care, because that's apparently the way YouTube likes to be fed. And if you'd like to support the channel for as little as $1 a month, consider checking out our Patreon at the link in the description below. We'll see you again next week for another list. Until next time, this is In Frame Out.